The current video demonstrates how to complete the setup of an M2 account as introduced at the end of the last video. The previous video ended with a brief introduction to the settings page in M2. If you haven't seen the previous video, you may want to watch it, unless you have already established an M2 account and simply need guidance with setting the account up. The video following this introduction will show you how to set up a shipping address and preferred settings for the Amazon FBA program, how to use account controls, how to set up contact information if different from your shipping address, how to upgrade your Amazon account to a Pro Seller account if you haven't already. If you are already a Pro Seller, you can skip the Pro Seller section of the video by moving ahead in the timeline at the bottom of the video. The last part of the video will show you how to connect your Amazon and M2 accounts. If you intend to use M2, you will need to authorize the application through your Amazon account. When you are authorizing M2 in Amazon, there are two pieces of information that you will need to enter in the M2 Amazon Credentials section of the M2 Settings page. You'll see the M2 Settings page, the point at which the last video left off, shortly after this video begins. Let's get started. You may be about to log into your M2 account or are continuing from the last video without having logged out. Once I've logged in, I'll navigate to the settings page by clicking on the appropriate button in the navigation bar. Now we are at the point where the previous video ended. The first section I'll complete is titled FBA Shipment Settings. First, I'll complete the address and phone number portion of this section. Amazon FBA requires a ship from address and phone number. Next, I'll turn my attention to the area titled Packing, Shipping, and Workflow Preferences. Amazon FBA shipments are completed based on several required values seen here. I'll explain each value and the choices I've made. For packing, I picked individual rather than case because I will be shipping individual used books as part of an FBA shipment as opposed to a case of books that are all the same title and ISBN. For workflow, I chose private because with Live, I cannot easily add and delete items from a shipment. Also with Live, if you already have a working shipment, then Amazon will assign items to the existing shipment as well as the shipment you are currently working on. Labels. I plan on putting my own labels on my books before sending them to Amazon, so I selected Self. Doing my own labeling makes it easier to track inventory in the M2 database. Not labeling my books could result in my books being commingled with other sellers' books. Prior to sending books to Amazon as part of the FBA shipment, I list them with a carefully written description of their condition to make sure customers know what they are getting. Commingling books would be counterproductive for selling used books that are carefully listed. Ship size. Amazon accepts either small parcel delivery or what is called less than truckload. I selected SPD because I don't have an entire pallet of boxes full of books that will be picked up by a shipper. I also don't have to schedule an appointment with an Amazon warehouse for my shipment to be accepted. Preparation type. The only preparation type I need for my books is labeling, which I am doing myself, as I stated earlier. Shipping type. I am using partnered shipping because I receive a discount on shipping costs with a shipper who is partnered with Amazon. Shipper. I'll be using FedEx partnered shipping. Boxed. I'm choosing yes because during the FBA shipment creation process, I let Amazon know which books are in each box I am sending them. This makes it easier for me to keep track of my inventory as well. While you may want to make other choices later, I recommend starting out with the values I set during this tutorial. The settings I picked here are tailored to selling single copies of used books you plan to send to Amazon as part of an FBA shipment. With FBA, Amazon will pick, pack, and ship your books to your customers. You can also mail books directly to customers that are kept in your own storage space, as will be explained in a later video. Rather than proceed immediately to the Amazon Credentials section of the settings, I'll direct my attention to Account Controls. Account controls will allow you to use your shipping address as your contact information if you select yes for the use shipment address. I don't want to type in contact information if I don't have to, so I'll use yes. M2 will fill in the contact information for me later. I left active shipments only as yes as well. Selecting yes for shipments means older shipments that have already been closed won't clutter up my FBA shipment report. I only allow reporting on older shipments when needed. The Amazon credentials you will need can be obtained when signing up as an Amazon Pro seller and authorizing M2 as a third-party application that you plan to use. If you have already signed up for a Pro Seller account, you can skip the Become a Pro Seller portion of the video that appears next and resume with Connect Amazon and M2. The M2 application is written for Amazon Pro sellers. If you were considering upgrading your account to Pro Seller to use with M2, this segment of the current video will show you how. If you already have a Pro Seller account, skip ahead to the portion of this video that explains how to connect your M2 and Amazon accounts. First, I'll direct my browser to the Seller Central Amazon.com and log in. Once logged in, I navigate to the Settings link in the top right-hand corner and select Account Info from the drop-down menu. When the Seller Account Information window opens, I click on the Manage link found next to the title, Your Services. In the My Services window that now opens, I look for Sell on Amazon. I click on Upgrade to access the Professional Seller dialog. In the next window called Change Selling Plan, I click on Proceed. A window now opens where I add an address for my book business. Amazon already filled in the display name for my business. Next, I'm required to verify my phone number by entering a PIN number Amazon will send to me for security reasons. I see SMS is already selected as the method of receiving the PIN, which will allow me to copy the number from a text message on my cell phone when needed. After entering the number of the phone where I want to receive the text message, I click on Text Me Now, and a pop-up window appears. After entering the PIN in the pop-up, I click Next, and I am taken to a window where I tell Amazon how I will pay my monthly Pro Seller fee and receive payment for any books I sell. After entering card and bank account information, I click Next again. In the Tell Us About Your Products window, Amazon wants information about what type of products I am offering for sale. I answer no regarding universal product codes because I will be using a fulfillment network SKU on the label of each book I sell, not a UPC code. If I were selling many items of the same type, such as packages of socks, a UPC code would be appropriate, but I'm not. I'm selling individual used books. I also don't have my own brand that I'm manufacturing and selling on Amazon, so I chose no for the second question as well. I plan to have more than 500 books listed at a time, hence my choice for the third question. Time to move on to the last window. The last item Amazon wants to know about as I upgrade to a Pro Seller account is what product categories I will be selling in. The only category I select is books. Finally, I click Finish, and my upgrade from an individual to Pro Seller account is done. Next, I'll be authorizing M2 as a third-party application to be used in conjunction with my Amazon account. At this point, you should be ready to authorize M2 as a third-party seller app you plan to use. If you haven't already, you should log into your Amazon seller and M2 accounts. Make sure you have access to the settings page in your M2 account and open the Amazon credentials section of the page as shown here. You will be entering a seller ID, an authorization token, under the Amazon credentials in the two blank fields. The developer ID and marketplace ID are already filled in for you. The first thing to do is copy the developer ID, which will be used shortly when authorizing M2. Only the US Marketplace ID can be used at this time. Now switch over to your Seller Central account so that you can authorize M2. First, navigate to the Settings link in the top right-hand corner and select User Permissions from the drop-down menu. In the window that opens, navigate to the heading Third-Party Developer and Apps. Under the heading, click on the Visit Manager Apps button. When the new window opens, click on the Authorize New Developer button, which takes us to a page that requests a developer name and developer ID. Type Media Merchant in the developer name field. Now paste the developer ID that you copied earlier from M2 into the corresponding field in the Seller Central and click Next. In the page that just opened, you can check the I agree box and then click Next. You now have access to the MWS page. You have also authorized M2 to send and receive information with Amazon. Copy the seller ID, which is the top ID, so that you can paste it in M2. Return to M2 and paste your ID into the Seller ID field. Make sure there are no spaces before or after the ID. Now go back to the Seller Central MWS page one last time. Copy your MWS authorization token. Bring the token back to M2 and paste it in the authorization token field. At this point, all the account setting and control sections should be complete. Go ahead and click Submit. You should see a message that says Default FBA Shipment Settings Saved. If all went well, you are ready to use M2. If not, you'll see the message, one or more errors were detected, see below for details. The field that needs to be corrected will be highlighted in red. Correct the fields in error and click Submit again. If you still have an error, use the feedback button on the bottom right to capture a snapshot of the error and send it to us. You can also use the Contact Us button in the toolbar at the top of the page to get in touch with us directly by email. In the next video, you will become familiar with the M2 dashboard and learn how to add books to your inventory that can be listed on Amazon.